Namaste and welcome viewers to a brand new episode of Mirror Prime. I'm Ashish Pareek. On the show today, we'll be talking about the biggest stage in Indian cricket, IPL. This is where talent meets opportunity, brands meet their ambassadors, and fans are bombarded with ads in the name of entertainment. Think about it. The same cricket stars who usually lecture you about fitness, discipline, and the spirit of the game are seen on billboards promoting pan masala and surrogate liquor brands. Leave aside the health side of it, even watching those awkward dance moves makes entire experience painful. In fact, the TV screen that millions of young fans across the nation are glued to glorifies products linked to cancer and liver damage. That's the reality of it. Finally, the health ministry has stepped in. The Directorate General of Health Services has urged IPL chairperson Arun Singh Dhumal to enforce stricter regulations on tobacco and also alcohol advertising for the upcoming IPL season. But the big question, will the BCCI listen? After all, the biggest names from legends like Sunil Gavaskar and Kapil Dev to current stars have all been part of this game off the field. In fact, India's current head coach Gautam Gambhir once called such pan masala ads as disgusting and disappointing. But the reality is, he himself, alongside skipper Rohit Sharma, was once seen in one such surrogate advertisement. So here's the million-dollar question, or should we say a crore-rupee question. Is BCCI going to dictate what brands cricketers promote? And if not, will the players themselves choose cash or conscience? Will the impact player of unhealthy ads finally be benched, or will this be just another DRS review, like they say in cricket, where the decision stays with the umpire, and the umpire here will be the one with the deepest pockets? We'll be discussing this in detail, and of course, joining us right now, Dilip Cherian, founder of Perfect Relations, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, chairperson, Nephron, and also Joseph Hua, who's a cricket writer. Gentlemen, really appreciate you joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Bagai, let's start with you now. Again, we'll go into the details of cricket, IPL, which is more than just a game. It's a phenomenon in India. Millions of young minds, even those that don't follow cricket particularly, actually sit and watch the IPL. Now, keeping that aside, this is a very serious development. The fact that the health ministry has now asked the IPL to rein in when it comes to such advertisements. What exactly is going wrong? And one of the things that has been flagged in this letter is the risk of non-communicable disease. You can just help our viewers understand why this is becoming such a major issue.
Good evening. I think this is a very important topic. Cricket is perhaps the most widely viewed and seen and played sport in India. Just the IPL final was viewed by more than 90 crore Indian out of 145 odd as a viewership. Cricket as cricketers and the platform of cricket are role models. A lot of youngsters watch them, idolize them, and the messaging is more important than anything else. If you just look at a simple example of Virat Kohli, the world is talking about his fitness. So I think the messaging should be correct. Any advertisement which lures or influences youngsters, especially the young minds who look at the television screen and the social medias, say, for example, tobacco ads or gutka ads, 1.4 million deaths in India every year. That's 9.5% of the overall all-cause mortality in India in terms of deaths. 65 to 70% of all-cause mortality in India is because of non-communicable diseases. It's a direct cause for ischemic heart disease, strokes, cancer of the lungs, chronic obstructive lung disease. You look at alcohol. We are losing approximately 350 Indians every day because of alcohol abuse. That's a whopping 14% increase in youngsters below the age of 21. The cola drinks, the fast food chains. Our messaging in a platform like this should be more accurate. It should be more health conscious. It should be more disease free. And I'm 100% sure that there are enough sponsors to look into it beyond the alcoholic brands or the brands which endorse or sell tobacco or fast foods or cola drinks. A lot of the countries beyond India had
Absolutely, Dr. Bagai. And interestingly, there is some sort of a financial angle to this. There is a particular reason. I was looking into one of the research, and there is a particular reason why you see a lot of these pan masala and alcohol ads when it comes to cricket. We'll get into the details of that. I'll go across to Dilip Cherian for that. But let me also get in Mr. Joseph Hua. Joseph, you just heard the entire argument here, and a cricketer that might actually see this particular letter might think that, well, cricketers are not the only people that are actually doing such ads. Everyone is doing it. Film stars are doing it. Everyone else is doing it. So why should cricketers themselves alone be the flag bearers of some sort of a health campaign? That's going to be the obvious question that comes from that should come from the cricketing circle.
Yes, as you rightly said, Shah Rukh Khan has been doing that. Akshay Kumar and a whole lot of celebrities, film stars have been doing that. But they are not the ones who play sport. The ones who play sport or have played sport and need to show what the benefits of sport is. So that is something that our cricketers should think about. To compare Shah Rukh Khan, what he is doing, what others are doing is not a concern. What are our boys doing? I mean, we are earning well. The boys are earning very, very well. It's not like in the past when G.R. Vishwanath and others have played 500 rupees per day. Today, you're paid handsome fees. There's a lot of money. But why do you have to go and do this? Especially when there's a health issue in the country. And everybody's talking about it. As the health directorate has come out, it's fantastic. It is for the BCCI to follow it. But again, if you look at it, the BCCI has had no control over the players at all. The players are controlled by their agents. Agents are fed by these sponsors. They come in and tell them, this is what we have. This is the money getting into the picture, into the kitty. So get your guys to endorse for it. So the agents also play a big role. And this is where the BCCI needs to control. Another aspect is, if you look at in the past, Sachin Tendulkar, when we were traveling with the team, we noticed how he used to refuse. Even if his agent was pushing for tobacco ads or liquor ads, he said, no, I will not do that because I've given a commitment to my dad that if this is bad for society, I will not do that. So he has set an example. It is very surprising that a player and the man of the stature of Sunil Gavaskar has to go and accept an ad from a pan masala. The same with Kapil Dev. These are all our icons. These are all people whom we looked up to. If they are saying it's okay, children can eat, let them die, it doesn't matter. Like if they say, okay, we're going to use this money for
Absolutely. Joseph, I think at the end of the day, like you rightly pointed out, the BCCI cannot really mandate or decide what ads cricketers choose to do, because the reality is that cricketers earn a lot more from advertisements than they actually do playing cricket. That's the reality of it. And I think that exactly comes to the, that's exactly what dictates the entire game here. Let me get in Dilip Cherian here. Dilip, you've been hearing the argument here. And interestingly, at the same time, my team has actually sent me a data which I think you'd be able to elaborate on. We are talking about why exactly do we see a lot more pan masala such ads when it comes to cricket games. The reason is cricket is one such game that is enjoyed across social circles. There's no rich or the poor. Everybody enjoys the game, and it has an absolute mass following even in rural areas. And the data that I have is that, for example, in 22-23, the spending on tobacco in India in rural areas was 3.71% compared to education, 3.30. So basically, Indians are spending more on pan and tobacco in rural areas than education. When that's the nature of it, you totally understand the entire game. Why these sort of pan masala ads are all over. You look at the stadiums, there are pan masala advertisements, there are billboards, alcohol, tobacco, you talk about it. Even the advertisements later, everywhere.
It's essentially a zero-sum game. The moment you ban advertising, and I've been on the Advertising Standards Council, the moment you ban advertising on many other channels, the advertising switches to what is called opportunity marketing, like cricket or maybe a film star. Opportunity marketing is as dangerous as advertising. So you don't allow advertising of pan masala or liquor on television or in print, so it moves to the stadium. That's one. The second thing is, don't you think that there's a bit of schizophrenia here where government can easily control the production of these items which are known to be destroying health and families across the country? On the one hand, you want the production of pan masala to continue. You want vast quantities of liquor and cigarettes to be produced because government gets excise GST out of them. Now, that would be where you actually need to put the control. You are actually creating in society the demand for these products,
Mr. Dilip
but
Cherian,
not
sorry to
allowing the
drift away from the
marketing of it.
topic, but in a country where women are blamed for the rape cases, do you really think the government will act on the cause instead of actually, acting on the cricketers themselves? You clearly see the pattern here. The fact that the focus is not going to be on the companies with deep pockets. The focus is going to be on advertisements and cricketers, which
Both
usually are
cricketers,
a easy target.
both cricketers and film stars are too often in this country the soft target. We need to understand that marketers will find, just like water find its own level, marketers will find the appropriate vehicle to carry this. As I said, at the Advertising Standards Council, both surrogate advertising and advertising of this kind has been clamped down on quite heavily. But the leakages exist. BCCI is one visible leakage. For example, who will you go to if you want to control what the film stars do? So I think that it is a bit like locking the stable doors after the horses have bolted to try and say, oh, these are the people we need to control. No, what we need to control is the manufacture of products which are today known to be carcinogenic, health, harmful to health. And I'm sure that Dr. Bagai will support me when I say that this is really just about trying to make an issue out of cricket or out of film stars.
Absolutely. Mr. Bagai, I want you to elaborate on that. Do you really think such advertisements push these sort of products deeper into the market, deeper into rural areas, or do you think it's just now the government just trying to whitewash an issue that can be solved in a different way? Do you really think such advertisements during a game like cricket, during IPL, really affect the masses?
So I think advertisements have a huge influence. That's a well-known fact. It's published data. It's a question of perception building. When you keep seeing something recurrently over and over again, it becomes repetitive, and there's a mental recall to a particular brand or a name. But here I must add, although doctors are
And the
not
thing, Mr.
allowed
Bagai,
to
just to add on to
endorse.
what you're saying, is that these are advertisements that are done by people who are supposedly fit. They are in their prime. These are athletes, elite athletes in India. So it gives a perception that whatever you're consuming, whatever they're consuming, it's safe to consume.
Yeah, so all the doctors in the same breath are not allowed to endorse or advertise or support any brand, any sponsorship. That's against our medical ethos and law. But just imagine an oncosurgeon or an oncologist supporting something like a cigarette brand or an alcoholic brand, or a gastroenterologist supporting alcohol. So I think the perception and the messaging must be correct. Yes, the production has to be in order so that the government can keep control. But I think people of a public stature carry a huge responsibility. And we must start thinking of the next generation. We must start thinking from illness to wellness. We must start giving the messaging to young children in the age group of 10 and 15 when they start taking up any sport. It need not be cricket. It can be badminton. It can be javelin. We've got Olympic gold medalists in our country in that sport. It can be tennis. It can be cricket. It can be football. It can be any sport. Any national and international personality carries that responsibility. And I think it's important that they carry it with a sense of honor to say that, listen, I'm fit because I'm not individually indulging in these brands. And I think BCCI, for that matter, or any other sports council in India, can actually look after the financial part. I think the sports people are earning very, very well. They can look after it and add it in the contract.
But the
That these are
problem
the
is,
products which you should not endorse.
Mr. Bagai, when does the greed stop? Nobody who's doing these advertisements is actually poor. They earn a lot and they just want to make the most out of it. Joseph Hoover, what do you think of this? Because the problem here is the BCCI, we can say sitting here that the BCCI should impose some sort of a blanket ban. Cricketers should not be allowed to do such advertisements. But the problem is, if the BCCI stops them from doing it, they will find a way to do it in the future. Joseph Hoover, what exactly should the BCCI do in the future? Because at the end of the day, surrogate marketing, advertisement is a massive market. Should the BCCI decide what the players do, or should we leave it to the players themselves? Because there are examples. Players like Sachin Tendulkar, they've reportedly declined 20-30 crores for advertisements just because they did not believe in promoting a brand that affects health. So there are examples. So what do you think? What should be done?
Ashish, if you ask me, it has come from the government. It's a government agency which has said this is an issue. It's requesting the BCCI to stop these ads during the IPL. And this particular BCCI board, I mean the Board of Cricket Control for India, is controlled by the government itself. We have all the bigwigs from the central government. They are the ones who are dominating the BCCI. It's for them to say, okay, now it's come from the central government. I think this is something we need to do seriously, and BCCI should move in. Also, in the same breath, I would say BCCI is also promoting what we call betting. At one time, we are telling people, don't bet, it's going to be killing people, and they're encouraging. All the players are taking my circle, my dream, my everything. Even that BCCI should stop, because many people are dying out of that. So the way I look at it, BCCI can do, it can tell its players, it can discipline them. It has every authority to tell the player, you better behave yourself. It has authority, and there's a contract. It can do. If it has the political will, and if all the board members agree, I think they can do that. It's time that it's done, and it'll be a great example if the BCCI can come forward and say, okay, these things cannot happen. And because as in the past, I've been saying, they were not paid at all. Players were getting paltry sums. That's when the match fixing came into the scene. Today, they're all paying big money. They got huge contracts. They don't need this 1.5 crore from alcohol or whatever this Pan Parag deal. This is insignificant. They need to understand they are icons.
Mr. Joseph Hoover, I think you're still 5 years behind when you say 1.5 crore. That's a rate, I feel, which was 5 years ago. It's already moved beyond 5 crores. But anyway, moving on to Dilip Cherian now. Dilip Cherian, the problem here is that all of these products that the cricketers or stars actually endorse, these are products that are actually consumed by a massive market. So the reality is, you can clamp down on advertisement, but the big fact is, the market is still there. And if there is a market, the advertisers, the marketers will find a way to advertise. How exactly can this be clamped down? Because they will find a way out of it.
I said, the obvious answer is to clamp down on production. The second answer is to raise taxes so much so that it does not become accessible to too many people. But really, what you're saying, what Joseph and Dr. Bagai are saying, is exactly the same thing. It is the encouragement of so-called healthy people, which becomes role models for people who are susceptible to this kind of advertising. This susceptibility is what marketers are good at. This is what we as marketing people, or we as brand people, or we as people who advise companies have to come up with. So obviously it works, which is why this kind of money can be spent. Obviously it's profitable, which is why these companies have the money to spend. Obviously people are penetrating markets which were never penetrated before, or increasing volumes beyond what was sold before. Either way, it drives up profits. So at the end of the day, the only way you can, the only foolproof way you have of actually controlling this is not to try and catch the animal by the tail, but to actually control it at the head. And that is what I would say, that if government, if the Directorate General of Health Services and
Mr. Dilip Cherian, I totally understand your sentiments, and in an ideal world, that's exactly what would happen. But the reality is, it hasn't happened for a long time. It's a massive lobby that we know how it functions. And like they say in cricket, Joseph will relate to it. Like they say in cricket, the matter has now gone to the third umpire. The problem here is, we don't know who the third umpire is it the BCCI, is it the player, or is it someone with a deeper pocket? I think that remains to be seen. We'll see what really happens, but really appreciate you gentlemen for joining us on the broadcast, getting us your insights on this. And yes, a very important issue, and I think at the end of the day, it's the cricketers that actually should take a final call if these are the sort of brands and these are the sort of messaging that they need to be linked with or they should be promoting. And viewers, on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Mirror Prime. Lots more lined up on the other side. Stay tuned.